Hey everybody, it's Farmer Matt here at the Dacha project in Freeville, New York, and we wanted to explain in this video our hillside farming rotation that we do here on this beautiful south-facing slope in front of our house. So this is a system that integrates perennial crops, annual crops, and chickens in a 3-year rotation that regenerates the soil fertility and grows a whole variety of fruits and vegetables on this hillside. So it starts up here, and you see that there's a swale that's cut into this hillside, and then a mound, and the mound is planted with perennial plants. In this mound we have some dwarf sour cherries, which are right here, and then on the other end we have a trellis with some grapes, some Concord type grapes, and then a few seedless grapes. And you can see here all of these swales are set up to be connected to drip irrigation. So grapes are a really reliable plant for us, and they almost always bloom after the danger of frost. And when you combine that with drip irrigation, you're assured a really, really big crop of grapes every year. So then, in between the swales, you'll see that there's another swale down here. In between the swales, we have these strips that are about 20 feet wide. All right, now more like 18 feet wide, where we grow our annual crops. But we don't grow the annual crops in each strip each year. Like I said, there's a 3-year rotation. And the way the rotation goes is that 1 year we grow annual crops on it, then the next year it's fallow or is sown with a cover crop, and then the following year it's grazed with chickens. So there's actually 4 strips like this on our hillside, but 2 of them are 75 feet and then 2 of them are 150 feet. So one year of the rotation is either 1 150-foot strip or 2 of the 75-foot strips. So this is one of the 75-foot strips, and this is its fallow year. So you can see I did sow some cover crops in it, but it's mostly weeds and even some tree seedlings. It makes some nice flowers for the pollinators. It's regenerating fertility, and I don't really care if a lot of weeds grow in here because it's going to get grazed by the chickens, and then it's going to be have annual crops planted on it with our system of using landscape fabric where weeds don't really cause a problem. So I just wanted to kind of do it at once, and it'll make lots of chicken food for next year. Here we have our second swale. This swale is all hazelnuts. Because this is one of the more intensively cultivated and planted areas of the farm, I focused, like I said in other videos, on crops that are really reliable in our climate. Rather than planting peaches or something here that is not going to fruit every year no matter what you do, just because of late frosts, I planted hazelnuts, which are really reliable because hazelnut blossoms are hardy down to like 20 degrees or something like that. So, and you can see the older ones on the other side of the swale have already started flowering, and they'll set some hazelnuts this year. These are hybrid hazelnuts, hybrid of American and European hazelnuts. There's a lot of species in the hazelnut family, so who knows what went into these hybrids, but they're from a local grower. They're resistant to eastern filbert blight, which is a big problem with growing hazelnuts in the east. And so far they've been really vigorous and reliable for us. As you can see, we just keep them really well mulched, and they do great. So here on this strip, we planted some garlic, but in between the garlic, we're letting things grow. This is really its fallow year, but I wanted a place to stick some garlic in, and the system is kind of versatile, so if you need a few extra feet, you can stick something in. So I put my garlic in here, and it's growing well. And as you can see, this strip had landscape fabric on it last year, and I pulled up the landscape fabric. I didn't weed or cultivate or anything. and I planted the garlic right into the soil. And it's doing great. If you come over and look at it, it's already the end of May. There's starting to be some weeds in here. I might give this garlic one weeding this season, which will be all it needs. If I come in here with a rototiller and tilled up this land to plant the garlic, I'd have 10 times as many weeds, because all the perennial dandelion roots and the morning glory will all get broken up, and each one of those pieces of roots would make a new plant, and all this garlic would be choked out with weeds. Okay, let's go down to the next strip. So we have another swale here planted with hazelnuts. I love hazelnuts, so I planted 2 strips of them. Here, this is a 150-foot strip, and this is where the chickens are grazing this year. And we have a system where we move the chickens in their coop and surround it with an electrical fence. So you can see this area here, which is pretty eaten down, is where the chickens were about a week and a half ago, and it's starting to recover. And we've moved the chickens onto the next section, and throughout the course of the year, the chickens will graze up and down this strip, and they provide all the fertility that this strip needs to grow a beautiful crop of annual plants next year. And of course, the chicken coop and the fence, it's all designed to fit in these strips. We'll talk more about our chicken system later, because we've been fine-tuning it for a couple of years, and I think it's pretty good. This swale is all planted with raspberries, both black raspberries like these and red raspberries. Raspberries are an amazing fruit crop to grow in the Northeast. They're really, really reliable. When you plant them on a raised bed like this, they are really free of disease problems. These black raspberries are really thorny, and the deer don't like to eat them. And they produce a crop every year. They're a native fruit, so they provide flowers for native pollinators. They're just wonderful. And when you grow on a system like we have with a trellis, if you prune them right, you get really, really, really huge yields. So we're just overflowing in raspberries. We don't have to do too much work to make that happen. Here is our 150-foot strip that this year is being planted with annual plants. And at the end of the season, when the chickens are done grazing, we put down this landscape fabric, and when we pull it up in the spring, like we've shown you in other videos, everything under it is dead and it's ready to plant. Some crops will plant straight into the ground. I often grow corn that way. I'll grow storage cabbage that way. And for some crops, I'll lay down this fabric with holes in it, and I'll plant right in the holes. If you walk out on this a little bit, you'll see some of the crops. We've got some Chinese cabbage here, some European cabbage, and then we've got eggplants. I just planted these yesterday, and we've got some peppers here, and they grow really well this way. And the landscape fabric combined with never tilling and the chickens makes a field that has a lot of fertility, but it also has soil that retains a really good structure. It holds moisture in well, and because the fabric is down, you don't get a ton of evaporation. So I don't really have to water these plants. I don't have to weed them because of the landscape fabric and the no tilling. Even for crops that I grow without the landscape fabric, like cabbages, I'll pull it up and I'll plant them right in the soil. But there's so little weed pressure because I never till. I really don't have to weed the cabbages at all. They grow quick enough to send out some flat leaves and cover the soil. And I never have to move any manure or fertilizer onto this field because it's all provided by the cover crop in the fallow year and the year of chickens grazing it and all of the good things they do to improve soil fertility. And then you'll see at the very bottom, we have a final swale which is planted with blueberries. These are kind of small. You can see some of them are already flowering, like this one. And blueberries are another really reliable native fruit to grow in this area. They'll give you a crop of blueberries every year. They can be a little difficult because you have to make sure you have nice acidic soil, and I did have to add some sulfur to this strip to get it ready for the blueberries. But they're starting to pick up here and do well, and that completes our annual system where you never need to till or use a tractor, you never need to move fertilizer, and you never need to weed, and you get to grow grapes, hazelnuts, cherries, blueberries, raspberries, black raspberries, any annual crop you want, and you get chicken eggs too. So it's a really great system, and yeah, thanks for watching and learning about this.